Шановні журналісти, вітання. Ми продовжуємо.
Greetings. We continue our working day in Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Now we will speak about organization of search, exhumation, transportation of bodies of died soldiers of Ukraine. We'll have Chief of the Department of Civil Military Cooperation of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Victoria Zhulinova, Major of the Police, Deputy Head of Investigation Department, and the Directorate of the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Dnipropetrovsk, Director of the Civil Protection and the Defense Department and the Dnipropetrovsk State Administration. And also Colonel Police Iryna Deputy Chief of the Department of Main Investigation Department of Ministry Representatives of National History, Military History Museum and Evacuation at 2000, Mr. Bonder and others. Dear experts, the floor is yours. Good afternoon. Thank you for participation in this briefing. I'm Colonel Nozdrachov, Oleksiy, Chief of the Department of Civil Military Cooperation of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Today, it's almost a year when Armed Forces of Ukraine started the mission of unification 200, and the goal is search and exhumation of died soldiers of Ukraine and other military formation, police forces on the there is a temporarily occupied illegal military formation, Russian troops, and during this period a lot has changed, and we set up a system of search and identification transportation. That's why the goal of this press conference is to inform you about our achievements and also to get rid of some rumors or allegations received from mass media about the cease of such activity. Since September last year, officially, we started the mission evacuation 200. Armed Forces of Ukraine started that mission after, operation near Ilovaisk, when first of all there was an issue that bodies of died military men are on the occupied territory, and the state, police, armed forces must involve all opportunities to return bodies of died to their families. For every hero of Ukraine to be honorably buried by families. Several systems were created since that time, and at present, when colleagues from the Ministry of Interior, National Military Museum inform you about results of that work, I would like to say that this operation is run by Civil Military Cooperation of Armed Forces of Ukraine, by capabilities of Civil Military Cooperation groups and in every sector of ATO. And these groups include representatives of National History Museum and other NGOs which agreed to do the search on occupied territories. It's not only the work of Armed Forces of Ukraine. As you understand, we initiated a constructive dialogue with representatives of some districts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, districts, and which allows not only to do the search but also to provide security, to guarantee security for searchers who do that work. You remember that there were several cases like Ilovaisk, Debaltsevo, Donetsk airport, but I would like to convince you that we didn't stop this work for a minute even. For search exhumation, we took the responsibility for this work, not only for armed forces units, but also for other formations like National Guards, for police, and even for volunteer battalions, which at that time they had their tasks there. Now they joined armed forces or National Guards or police forces. At the same time, we organized the work to search and for exhumation. Only armed forces of Ukraine do that work. That's the agreement between us and our colleagues from police, and it gives a lot of work to our searchers and from National Military History Museum and from NGOs, including Union People's Memory NGO, and a leader of that organization recently provides information about that work stopped its work, and that organization stopped its work. But I wanted to tell you that since the first post and until now, searches from that organization continue as a part of civil military groups. They have never stopped their work, and if there is a decision that they will stop that work, will not stop searching. Will continue, and the museum will continue that, and NGOs will continue that, and they already offered their assistance to the armed forces and to police. Now, we create in our department. We organize a search department. There will be a support section which will help that work, and it's about transportation means, work with international organizations, and work with mass media. And we were always open, first of all, for mass media, and covering the work of armed forces and that work that is done by the state in order to find and to return Ukrainian heroes and who gave their life for independence. At the same time, yes, there are some problems, and you will have a chance to hear answer to them, like support, material support, logistic support, and procedures, and because of the work of our colleagues in the Ministry of Interior and the Security Service. And there is a system of identification of bodies, and the results are quite positive. I would like to say that our foreign partners, representatives of other armed forces from Western Europe, when they hear about results of our work, and they say it's time for Ukraine to teach or to instruct other armed forces on how to organize such work. The work continues. Minister of Defense, Chief of General Staff, and General Muzhenko give special attention to that part of a mission of armed forces of Ukraine as a result of constructive dialogue with representatives of some districts in Donetsk region. We can monitor not only search but also medical aid to the wounded and who are illegally kept in Donetsk or Luhansk on occupied territories, and we provide assistance to military men in prison in Donetsk SBU, and that's why that work is narrow, not only just narrow to find those who died, but also we cover all fields of that activity. And we will be ready to provide, as a part of our confidence, to provide answers on these issues. That's why I would like to finish and to give the floor to a representative of the main investigation department in the Ministry of Interior, and who ran the work on identification. And as a representative of police, they work on return of all military men to the places where they will be buried. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Good afternoon, Deputy Head of the Department of Main Investigation Department, Lieutenant Colonel Kalantai. The Ministry of Interior of Ukraine, as instructed by the Minister in September 2014, delegated to the investigation departments to create the territorial working groups that include the people, the employees of the investigation departments and criminalistic investigation centers. The task is to register all those missing citizens or those which were captured. The organization of taking samples and is also organizing the medical expertise to identify the DNA of those who are perished. According to mass media, on the official site of the mass media, there is a section, identification, help to find, they were kidnapped, they're missing. We request the assistance from the citizens whose relatives are missing, the contact phone numbers of the heads of working groups of investigation departments in Kiev, in the regions and at the railway. Besides, the Ministry of the Interior has a similar working group which coordinates all the structural services of the ministry. I would like to briefly give you some statistical information on the work done by the Ministry of identifying the missing persons. First of all, during this period, during the time of ATO operation, we have more than 5,500 criminal cases registered related to missing citizens. More than 300 were identified. We identify not just servicemen who are missing in ATO area, but also civilians. Our work is much wider. We work on identifying the citizens, the civilians. As to the information related to identifying the dead bodies, we have now registered 626 of such messages. Most of them are registered in Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Lugansk, and Kiev regions. We managed to identify more than 590 persons, and more than 800 are not identified of the dead bodies, but the work is going on. As to the procedure, what the Ministry of Interior is doing, you can read about that at the website of the Ministry of the Interior. It is an open website, and you will be able to read and understand everything there. Now, if you have any additional questions, I will answer them later. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Fedorchuk Iryna Yuryevna, head of the Department of Cooperation in Dnipropetrovsk administration since the beginning of the rest of ATO in the morgue. At Dnipropetrovsk, we received 966 bodies of dead military men of armed forces of Ukraine, of National Guards and police forces, and from voluntary battalions. Since September 2014, a group of civic cooperation, civic military and Dnipropetrovsk Bureau started to deliver bodies of dead and fragments of bodies that visually is not impossible to recognize them. Information about relatives of the died was absent, and that's why it was impossible to do the comparative analysis, to do the expert and to find out, to identify them. Our administration, together with police, we developed a clear algorithm and the tool of cooperation, and we initiated to create the database of DNA of died and relatives of those who are missing. And I underline, this is the only database in Ukraine, and Ukraine has never faced that problem before. That's why, because of this database, we have results, and we can identify the dead that died if we do this expertise. Also, since September in Dnipropetrovsk region, Dnipropetrovsk, on Krasnopolsky graveyard, we bury timely unidentified defenders of Ukraine. And the burying is taking place together with bodies with all military owners, and we have about 209 of such buried. And as a result of the only database of DNA, and from 2009 of temporary unidentified, we identified 80, and 72 were reburied at the request of relatives at the place where they lived in other regions of Ukraine. Also, Dnipropetrovsk administration, together with other state bodies on our territory, we simplified the bureaucratic procedure to follow the documents when we rebury after we identify the died. In March this year, last March, in Krasnopolsky, on Krasnopolsky graveyard, we solemnly opened a memorial to those who died in the ATO area. So in such a way, in Dnipropetrovsk, we have a clear cooperation. I will make a list. I will give you a list for you to understand. Police, first of all, and investigation department in Dnipropetrovsk. Military Commissariat and Operational Command East and National Guards. Dnipropetrovsk Bureau on Forensic Bureau, and then we have the registration, death registration agency when we need documents, when we identify the died, and we cooperate with City Council and the Regional Service. And if it's necessary, the sanitary station gives us a permission for reburial. All that we're working on Regional Service. I would like to ask relatives of the missing, those who identified through DNA procedure, if there is information, if you receive documents that died, the perished was identified, call our department 7444813, Department of Cooperation with Law Enforcement Bodies, and all the information. We developed all the algorithm how to work with relatives to identify personality through DNA when the body is in a morgue, and also when the body is buried in Dnipropetrovsk. All those algorithms are on the website of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast Administration, Regional Administration, and the section of identification. This is briefly about the situation.
Zhulinova Victoria, the Deputy Head of the Investigation Department of Dnipropetrovsk region. Since October 2014, we created a group on identification of the people who are missing in ATO area. We have more than 900 bodies delivered. we, the investigation department, identified 495 bodies of those who perished in ATO area. These are military and from military and volunteer battalions. Talking about identification of personality, they deliver the bodies of those perished. The biological samples of the bodies are taken and they are sent to the State Scientific Research Center. At the same time, the biological samples are taken from the relatives of those perished. This is all downloaded into the same database, and after that the personality is identified. We now have 190 criminal cases related to missing and captured. 90 of them have been found. Good afternoon, Nityosov Pavel. I'm the representative of the National Historical Military Museum of Ukraine. I came to the center because the situation is like that with the mission Black Tulip. It sort of stops its activities, and because of that, the bodies of the perished will not be transported. The museum participates in the mission of evacuation from the very beginning of this mission, from the launch of the mission, starting from September. The territory of Donetsk and Lugansk regions, all the front line is included into the area. And that is the area on both sides, on the Ukrainian side and the occupied side. Many NGOs participated in the process, and in fact, the issue of transportation, of search, exhumation of the dead, this is a very delicate issue, and the delicate balance which exists could not be violated, because going there, before that we need to have lengthy negotiations, phone negotiations, not just with the other side. And that is why when now some organizations started to organize PR campaigns, and when they are saying that it's only them who are doing it, this is wrong. That can violate this delicate process. The people from our museum started participating in that since September last year, and we have never done any media conferences on that, any press briefings. Now we have to do this, to make this statement, and the work will continue even if someone leaves this work. If you have any questions, please ask. We will answer all your questions on what has been done and what we are planning. So you're welcome. Now I would like to invite all the speakers to the stage, and now Q&A session. We have just 5 minutes, very brief questions and answers. UCMC, Olena Stetsuk, is the search going on the territory which is not under the control of Ukraine, especially pre-border territory? We know there were big losses in 79 and other brigades, and the control over these territories was lost for Ukraine. Are you searching on these territories? It's an interesting question. As I have mentioned, we do work there, but we are very much limited in time and in places where we can search. But I would like to say that near Savur-Mogila, we have almost completed our work. There are few places left where we have to check whether there are some burial sites, but We're planning to check all the territory, and depending on when we get the chance, we will be able to check all the settlements where there might be, whether the battles were going on and where there might be some burial sites. So Izvarina, Krasnodon, Chervona Partisanska, these are the territories close to the border. During the last several months, the works were not going on there because we are finishing work near Donetsk airport, Debaltsevo. We want to finish Ilovaisk, but we are planning work in those places as well, and we started negotiations with the other side on planning these works. UCMC, one more question. How many people are involved into search on the territory which is not under Ukrainian control, and how many are there missing who have to be transported out of there? That is a big question. The work on search, it's not just a group of people, of searchers who do that. The group includes 4-6 persons and a vehicle, but as we have mentioned before that, a lot of work is going on negotiations, on guaranteeing security. So basically one trip is supported by the work of 2025 citizens and servicemen. And as of today, several bodies were discovered yesterday, and today we have 273 missing persons, but we continue our work, and in the nearest future this number will be reduced. One more question. Interfax Ukraine, can you provide general information on how many people are considered to be killed? You mentioned about how many are missing, and is that the figure that relates to armed forces only, or to other military formations? Frankly speaking, I can tell you only about the armed forces of Ukraine. As of today, we have about 2,000 servicemen, 2,300 servicemen. To tell you how many perished, how many missing is difficult, because about 40% of that are people who are captured out of missing, but we do not know where they are, and about 60% these are the servicemen who perished. So out of 270 missing, we believe that approximately 70, 80 are captured, kidnapped, and others unfortunately perished. So we need to finish. Maybe I would add, there is such an electronic resource, the book of memory of those who perished for Ukraine. Just, I will show you the insignia. It looks like that. And every day the information is updated there. We include all the bodies that were identified and which were buried already by relatives. There's a photograph of a person killed, brief description of the battle in which the person was killed. All this information is there. And in the end, I would like to remind that the work on search and exhumation is a very delicate work, and it's conducted by both sides. We contact with the Commission on Prisoners, with Lilia Radionova, and I would like to thank the medical personnel of Donetsk hospitals, of Kalinin Hospital, who help us in this work. This is a constructive dialogue, and we, as the people who believe, we understand that all those who perished they have to be buried with all the respect. And thank you for your time and your attention. And we're ready to work with you. Thank you for coming here and telling us about what you are doing. And we will be happy to see you again.